I'm Abby and you're watching the first episode of my Concussion Road to Recovery series. First of all, I'm sick of hearing people say it's just a concussion. Guys, a concussion is a brain injury. You only get one brain. You can't just throw a cast on it. Concussions are a big deal, and these side effects can last really for a lifetime, especially if you don't do what the doctor says. Hopefully through this people can be more aware, and I hope more people don't end up like me and have at least 5 documented concussions by the time they turn 25. So, a little bit about me. If you don't know anything about me, my name's Abbey Way. I'm a sports reporter in Pittsburgh at 93.7 The Fan. It's a Pittsburgh sports radio station, and I was an athlete my whole life. I played sports as long as I can remember. Basketball, soccer, track were my main things. I've had 5 concussions. The most recent one was exactly 13 weeks ago today. It was in a car accident. I'll get more into that in a minute, but I guess I should start from the beginning. My first 2 concussions actually were back-to-back, and that's really dangerous. But at the time, I was only in 7th or 8th grade. Honestly, I can't remember. But it was 2 days in a row I had 2 basketball games. And the first day, I got hit right in the face. Somebody just threw a ball right in my face in an inbounds play, knocked my head back. Didn't really think of it as a big deal back then. I feel like nobody really knew anything about concussions. So, of course, I played in my game the next day and was going up for a layup. A girl who was twice my size took my feet, flipped me straight on my head. All the impacts went onto my head. I had a seizure right on the floor and was unconscious for about 5 minutes, had to be taken by ambulance to the hospital, and that was that. That was my first 2 concussions. The 2 big things were, I guess, I had, a seizure on the court and was unconscious. You don't necessarily have to have a seizure or be unconscious to have a concussion. So after that, I heal, I move on, and didn't have my 3rd concussion until my senior year of high school. I was high jumping, jumped right over the mat. They didn't have the standards set up correctly. My feet did clip the end, stop my force a little bit, but it was that whiplash motion, smacked my head right off the track. Again with this one, young and stupid, nobody really knew anything about concussions still at the time. So for this concussion, I didn't really have any major symptoms at the exact moment of impact. I was in the middle of a track meet, I just wanted to win. And it wasn't until afterwards that I started to feel really weird. My parents were at the track meet. We actually ended up stopping at the emergency room on the way home when I let them know in the car that I could no longer feel my arms and legs. So, big warning sign there. Go to the hospital, same deal as before, put me in a neck brace, do a bunch of tests. Yep, you have a concussion. So I had to sit out a while. Really didn't sit out that long because I did finish that season. I must have sat out, I guess, just a few weeks, and finished my track season my senior year. So after that, I went on to compete at East Carolina University as a pole vaulter and got a concussion the meet before indoor conference championships. So was going up, regular jump, landed on the mat, but kind of landed weird, and it was a brand new mat, so it wasn't really broken in that much. Pretty hard mat to land on, and kind of the same thing as all my previous ones, same whiplash motion, head hit off the mat. So I keep jumping. After the meet, go up to the trainer, start crying. One of the major symptoms I have when I do have concussions is I do get really emotional, cry for no reason. So with that one, I had to sit out a really long time. I got the concussion just around probably January 2013, and wasn't allowed to pole vault again until the fall of 2013. So I had a redshirt my outdoor season. I didn't get to go compete at the conference championships for indoor. I ended up having to wear a helmet for the next 2 seasons. A helmet isn't necessarily going to prevent you from getting a concussion, because really all you need to do to get a concussion is shake your brain. So I was able to finish strong, graduated my senior year, competed with the track team. We won a conference championship as a team my senior year, and I got 2nd at the outdoor, which I was pretty pumped about. So yeah, I was fine after that till about 13 weeks ago. I had just left Penguins practice. It was a really depressing day because they were cleaning out their lockers because their season had just ended since they lost in the playoffs. So I was there interviewing them. Leaving to go home. I live an hour away. It's pouring down rain. I'm sitting on a ramp waiting, to be able to merge onto this busy road. And I'm sitting there and I see this Jeep coming from behind me, and it's a pretty long ramp, and I'm like, is this car, never gonna stop. I just kept seeing it in my rear view mirror and coming faster and faster and faster, and then bang, it just hit me, and I hit into a wall in front of me. His Jeep went flying out into 376. I don't know how, nothing hit him. I can still see that vehicle flying through the air. I see him coming through my rear view mirror. I can still hear the crunch of our cars hitting. It was just a horrible, horrible experience. I had never been in a wreck before, so it was very scary. The guy that hit me, luckily, was fine. He got out of his car, came over to mine to see if I was okay. Wasn't bleeding anywhere. I had my seatbelt on. Before I knew it, the ambulance was there, pulling me out of my car and taking me to Presby. You know, they put me in a neck brace in the ambulance, started an IV. As soon as I got to the hospital, started checking me out, make sure everything was okay, kind of checked over my whole body. My neck and back also took a major hit. You know, 13 weeks later, they're still extremely tight and bother me still to this day. But yeah, so the ER doctors completely missed my concussion. A couple days later, I was able to get in at the concussion clinic in Pittsburgh, took the impact test, which I had taken probably at least a dozen times in my life. And yeah, of course, they said I had a concussion. It was pretty obvious. I knew I had one. I know what it feels like to have one at this point. After that fourth one, I really did learn to take things more seriously. I was way more cautious when it did come to my head, and learned to be a lot more careful and aware. And anytime I did take, you know, a hit to the head after that fourth concussion, I was a lot more careful, and I would, you know, maybe take like a day or a couple days just to make sure that any symptoms that I did have that could seem like a concussion symptom went away, just to make sure before I went back to activity and everything. So some of my major symptoms at the beginning were, of course, a headache, dizziness, feeling nauseous, feeling sad, forgetful, kind of confused, just kind of dazed at all times, like blank stares. You know, people that knew me well could just see that I kind of just had a blank look on my face. I wasn't the, oh, you know, excited old Abby like I usually was. Oh, my balance was way off. So pretty much I was messed up. So then I went back to work about a week after. The doctor said, you know, do what you can. I knew that we were getting interns that week, and that my big role that week was going to be taking the interns on their first day of interning at the Fan, which is a really cool internship. I've been there, done that. So I was going to be taking them to their first Pirate games and taking them in the locker room to interview players, and you know, I didn't want to bail on them. So I went to work 1 or 2 days that week, and then I also worked for Fox Sports as a field stage manager, so I was down on the field. I looked a mess that day, I can remember. I don't know how I did that. Another symptom I forgot to mention is sensitivity to light and noise. I was wearing a headset the entire time with people talking in my ears. I was down on the field of a Major League Baseball game, so there's lights everywhere, sounds, paying attention to the ball, making sure it doesn't come hit me because I'm right next to the dugout on the third base line. It was pretty crazy, but the good part was I was leaving for Florida. I had a vacation planned for that very next day, so after I worked this late night with Fox Sports, went and stayed at a hotel, and me and my fiance left for Florida and stayed there for a week. It was amazing. I felt great most of the days. I was able to just lay on the beach, rest, but anytime I did try to up my activity level a little bit, like just jumping in the waves, swimming around in the pool a little bit, stand-up paddleboarding, it would cause a headache. I would get extremely tired, which is another symptom I forgot to mention, just being tired all the time, especially if I was doing any concentrating or any physical activity. So Florida was pretty much great, except, you know, for a few situations where I did get bad headaches. I was sleeping pretty well there for the most part because we were waking up early, going to bed early. But then I came back and I started working again right away. And really, I was taking my time at first to not work too much, but then I was working just as much as I was before the accident, before I knew it. And I thought it was okay, but it really wasn't, and eventually it caught up with me. I wasn't even allowed to drive a vehicle, so my mom actually had to drive me to Pittsburgh every day that I had to work, and first of all, I get car sick even without a concussion, so that was a pretty miserable experience, having to be a passenger in a car for an hour commute to Pittsburgh each way. So we ended up staying in hotel rooms a lot of the time just to kind of break it up for me, especially if I did work a couple days in a row. We would just stay down in Pittsburgh, and I was so tired all day at work. It was hard to concentrate. I was forgetting people's names that I have known and worked with for years. I would see people's faces, not know who they were. So I'm working, and it's about exactly a month after the date of the accident. Everything just went downhill fast. I was actually off this day, and I wasn't supposed to be working, and then I got a phone call asking me if I could do this last-minute event. It wasn't much longer after it that I just got so sick that I couldn't even barely move. I couldn't take a step. I felt like I was going to throw up. I was extremely nauseous. The lights and the sounds, I couldn't take it a single bit. I just wanted to be in a dark room, not moving at all. I've never in my life felt pain like I did that day. So my mom and my sister take me to the emergency room, and I was basically having a really bad migraine, which I had never had one in my life. And it was just a result of, you know, everything building up from the concussion and trying to do too much. And I was also on a drug called amantadine at that time, and I had just started taking 2 a day, where before I was only taking 1 a day, and it's a drug that's supposed to help stimulate your brain and help people with concussions, but it does have side effects, and we think that that day that it happened to be the day that I started taking 2 a day instead of 1 a day, that might have been the cause of it as well. So they did some tests right away when I got there, and checked me out, gave me an IV with just like a concoction of a bunch of drugs that are supposed to help people who have migraines, put me right to sleep pretty much. And then I felt amazing for 3 days. I don't know if it was that combination of drugs, if it just stayed in my system for 3 days or what, but I was like, oh, I'm healed, finally. I felt amazing. I was also going to physical therapy at the time. I was getting treatment on my neck and back, and I was also doing cognitive therapy. Talked to the physical therapist, and I was like, I feel amazing. I know I was just in the emergency room 3 days ago, but do you think I could try riding a bike? You know, it had been a month since I had done anything, and I'm extremely into fitness, and I was pretty much losing it, not being able to work out or anything. So I did try to ride a bike for 5 minutes. She said it was fine, and I did it, and it was alright, no problem. So I continued to work till the end of June, and I didn't work as much, but it was still just the driving back and forth and everything. It just really started to catch up with me again. The doctors then took me off work completely. So it was no more work, which I guess we probably should have done from the beginning, but you know, with concussions, it's kind of a trial and error thing, and it's different for everybody. Not everything works for everyone in the same way. You know, I'd feel great maybe at the beginning of a day, but then by the end of it, I just felt like I had taken 10 steps back. So when they did take me off work, I went away for 2.5 weeks and stayed with my sisters in Louisiana, just to kind of get away from everything, have no distractions, no pressure to work or anything, even though I wasn't allowed to work, but still just be away from that environment. You know, be able to lay in 100-degree weather every day and hang out in the pool, because when I was in Florida, I felt great. So I went down there, hung out for 2.5 weeks. Felt amazing most of the time, you know, kind of like Florida. There was just a few days. Most of them were when kids were around screaming, running around the pool, just, you know, being distracting, or if I did try to do anything, you know, like for my blog, or just think too hard about anything, really, you know, it'd cause a headache. But for the most part, I was doing really, really amazing while I was there. Started really getting into yoga, which was something that the doctor said was fine to do, despite not being allowed to work out besides some cardio. So I started going for 1-mile walks towards the end of the trip, and by that last day I swam 100 laps. It's not like an Olympic-sized swimming pool, but it's an in-ground pool, and I did them pretty much all in a row by that last day. But towards the beginning of the trip, I would take breaks. My sister was swimming them with me, and she would swim 20 and I would swim 20 with her, and then she'd swim 20 more, but I would sit out, and that's kind of how I did it all week. But by that last day, we just kind of took, like, you know, about a 2-minute break in between every 20 or 25, and I did 100 in one day, which seemed like a huge accomplishment. So then, you know, here I am, heading back to Pennsylvania. I feel amazing. I was so excited that my nephew, who I only get to see a couple times a year, was coming back with me. But it turned out to be really, really hard for me. He's 6 years old, full of energy, and he likes to yell and run around a lot. So, of course, I tried to keep up with him as much as I could, but I had a really, really, really tough week, especially coming off of feeling so amazing in Louisiana. That week just about killed me when he was here, and then After he left, it was the same thing for a week. I thought I'd be able to recover, you know, just a day or two after he left from it all, and I didn't. I was just miserable for a whole week. It seemed like my neck and back were really getting tight. I did see, you know, the chiropractor every 2 weeks or so throughout this whole thing. Then, you know, I finally got to see the head of the UPMC concussion clinic. His name's Dr. Collins, and I had been trying to get in with him since the day of the accident, and he had been out of town or something, I think, and I finally was able to see him 1 week ago. So it was 12 weeks in from the date of the accident, and he basically told me everything that I wanted to hear, but I did not expect to hear. He told me it was time. I needed to go work out as hard as I could. I needed to stimulate my brain, do the opposite of everything I had been doing up to that point, which I did need to do because that's what you have to do to heal a concussion, but there comes a point where you need to attack it. And I couldn't believe what he was telling me. I was coming off the worst 2 weeks of maybe, you know, the whole thing since the very beginning, and he said, just trust me, go as hard as you can in the gym and see me in a week, and that is tomorrow that I see him. And I'm excited to say that I felt amazing this week. I have been getting headaches, and that's just part of it, and I need to just keep pushing through. He even said, like, if I get a headache sitting in the house, do 10 push-ups. I need to do the things that I love to do and the things that my body needs, and that's working out. Everybody needs to work out, and I think mentally I just really need that because I love it, and through my blog and everything, I just, you know, want to help everybody, and I want everybody to live a healthy lifestyle. And the fact that I wasn't able to do that was just impacting me so hard mentally that it was causing the headaches at this point. So pretty much that's my story. I know it was really long, but I'm sure I forgot a ton of things, so I'm gonna continue to do this about every week or 2 weeks, you know, just depending on what there is to update. They won't all be this long. And I hope this helped you. I'll get more into it, you know, other episodes. I think I'm gonna be doing this for a while. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the second episode. It will be a lot more exciting than this one. It's just going to be a bunch of footage of what I did this week. So check it out, and thanks for watching, guys. Take care of your heads.